This is Noir Alley, and I'm your host, Eddie Muller. As any true noirista knows, the seminal text in the development of noir was published in 1934, during the height of the Depression. The Postman Always Rings Twice by James M. Cain is the Pandora's box that unleashed literally hundreds of tales of domestic malice and murder. The film I have for you today is a unique variation on the time-honored tradition of spouses bumping each other off. It's Cause for Alarm, released by MGM in 1951. Loretta Young is not a performer synonymous with this genre, but make no mistake, this is her show all the way. The film was produced by her husband, Tom Lewis, as a trial run for the actress's move from films to television. Its short shooting schedule and intentionally low budget were a test drive to see if Lewis and Young could create feature-quality fare with the limited time and money allotted to TV shows. As you'll see, this 73-minute thriller plays like an episode of the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, or more accurately, a homicidal version of Father Knows Best. Loretta Young is certainly one of the most beautiful women to ever perform in front of a movie camera, which is what she'd been doing since she was a child in the silent era. Her career was still going strong in the 1940s, and it even included a couple of detours into noir. The Stranger, which she made with Orson Welles in 1946, and 1949's The Accused, in which she played a college professor who kills a student who sexually assaults her. More typical for Young was wholesome, uplifting fare, like 1947's The Farmer's Daughter, for which she won the Best Actress Oscar. She followed that with two more hits, The Bishop's Wife and Come to the Stable, in which she was again nominated for an Oscar, playing a nun. It seems like in half of her movies, Loretta Young was building schools and churches for impoverished orphans. Cause for Alarm was something entirely different. Young plays Ellen Jones, an ordinary housewife, well, as much as Loretta Young is capable of ordinary. Everything about Ellen's existence in this unnamed suburb predicts television's coming depiction of the American middle class in the 1950s, except that her husband George, a once cocky Air Force pilot confined to bed by a heart condition, is convinced that his wife is having an affair with the family doctor, who happens to be his former best friend. So George concocts a unique plan to get his revenge, one in which the postman is not merely a metaphor, as in Cain's novel, but an actual character essential to the plot. There is so much bile and spite in Barry Sullivan's performance, you may root for Young to drop the saintly routine and just give him what he deserves. But that would spoil the suspense, which was the specialty of screenwriter Mel Donnelly. Tom Lewis made a shrewd choice picking Donnelly to flesh out this story. The guy was a master of women in jeopardy thrillers. In fact, his original two-act stage play, The Man, about a woman trapped in her house with a psychotic handyman, was produced multiple times, on radio, on stage, and for the movies. You may recognize it as Beware My Lovely, which I've shown on Noir Alley before. Donnelly could have made an entire career out of that one story, but he also wrote the scripts for The Spiral Staircase, The Reckless Moment, and Jeopardy, all thrillers with female protagonists. His most famous film, however, was The Window, in which it's a little boy whose life is put in danger. He works another imaginative kid into this film. To direct, Lewis and Young chose a family friend, Tay Garnett, who, coincidentally, had directed MGM's 1946 version of The Postman Always Rings Twice. Young and Garnett had been pals since he directed her opposite David Niven in the 1939 film Eternally Yours. The cinematography by Joe Rutenberg features none of the shadowy menace he brought to MGM noirs such as Side Street and The Bribe. It looks like every family-based sitcom of the 1950s. And instead of being menaced by thugs and hoodlums, Ellen Jones finds herself trapped by the most mundane aspects of suburban life. Co-starring Bruce Cowling as the doctor suspected of having a little something extra in his bedside manner, Here's Loretta Young, squirming and sweating, with plenty of cause for alarm.